Okay, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. In the last episode, we had succeeded in getting into orbit, and we have started to create our kind of deep space relay network. We've got some satellites up here, the Kerbasats, and we sent one satellite on a flyby of the moon. The Mun. So we are making some progress. Let's take another quick look. All right, rendezvous I'm not going to bother with. Surface outpost. Data from the surface of the moon. Not yet. Okay, so science data from space around the moon. We'll take that. How long does that one last? Oh, wow. Okay, so we have quite a while to do that. And actually, yeah, quite a while to do that too. So we'll take those just to have them around. And again, you know, the purpose of grabbing some of these contracts literally is just to make the quick money off of them. Yeah, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of extra stuff there I want to do just yet. But that's fine, because we still have some things to do. Get something in orbit around the moon, and we got to crash into the moon. And we still have some crude science mission, some crude space exploration to do. So, oh. Did I not save that with the booster? Huh. Alright, well, that's fine. Luckily, we saved the booster. The ridiculous overkill booster, the OTAR 2. And this is going to be Akatosh 2. And checking our staging. Okay. Looking good on all counts there. Do we have any additional science that we need to take with us? We do not. Check our action group. Perfect. Action group 1 is still going to collect all of our science. And for crew, we already sent up Jebediah, so we will send up Valentina, our next pilot, who has not gone into orbit. Okay, and we are going to launch this one just for fun, because we can. I guess we'll launch it from Mahi Mahi. And the OTAR 2 booster with the solid rockets we stuck on the side, this has more than enough delta V to get into a good stable orbit from whatever kind of crazy inclination we wanted to do. So we can literally afford to just have some fun with it. Because again, this booster is kind of overpowered for just doing, a little one crew capsule up into low Kerbal orbit. So we're just going to send it off. I have no idea, what trajectory we're doing. Alright, so we're going in, a southern polar orbit. That's fine. That's fine. It's all good. More than enough delta V to get where we're going, do what we want to do. Still going nice and strong. And again, we put that aerodynamic nose cone up on top of the capsule. That helps us out quite a bit. Alright, so our apoapsis is now officially up in space. Alright, we're flying high. Do we have any diminishing returns that we wanted to get there? Not enough. Not enough. And when I say that those aren't enough, I literally mean that they're not worth giving up the diminishing returns that we'll get from collecting that data up in space. Yeah, look at this weird orbit. It's all good though. We can have some fun with a ridiculously overpowered booster with way more than enough Delta V. We can launch off into a crazy non-optimal orbit. Now Valentina's going to be going up into space high above Kerbin. She's going to get, if memory serves, a bit of extra altitude compared to what we did with Jeb in Akatosh 1. Because I believe with Akatosh 1, we only went into low Kerbal orbit. Yeah, see, we're still in space low. Okay, and we're getting tons of... We may have gone into space high. Because I didn't, I thought that I'd be getting diminishing returns off of that, rather than the full payload. But that's okay. Alright, we have circularized out. Man, we really do have an enormous amount of Delta V. That was a very good booster we built there. You know, for the 1.25 meter size. Alright, that will definitely be in space high. And we'll do a little spacewalk. Oh. Okay. And one of the things I always do, I usually wait until I'm sending up like the 2 or the 3 person capsules. I'll launch a crewed orbital mission into a polar orbit. And I'll collect the EVA data from flying over every biome. And it takes a little while. Maybe we did send Jeb up into space high. I honestly don't remember. It's been a little while. So, alright, we have everything we need off of this, except for some Delta V, but it doesn't really matter because we don't really need it anymore. We have more than enough Delta V to retrograde, to burn retrograde and collapse our orbit down into the atmosphere. And again, the target I usually go for is around 30,000 meters, so that's a good stable descent. And look at Valentina, she's all excited. I mean, I would be too. Who are we kidding? And get some EVA data above the water, just because we can while we're there. Alright, time to ditch our little service module. And again, we'll do an EVA inside the atmosphere, just because we can, because Valentina's a badass. Alright, and down we go. I have no idea where we're going to land, but it's fine. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I have, you know, playing Kerbal Space Program for as long as I have, there have been a few times where I've occasionally landed a mission and through bad luck, my capsule or whatever it was came down and landed like on the side of a mountain. Could not get a stable place to land. Tumbled down the mountain, smacked a rock, and exploded and like killed everybody, lost everything. That has happened to me a couple of times. And I can't guarantee that it won't happen in this career. But, I mean, that's okay. That's half the fun of Kerbal Space Program is you never know when something's going to explode. Alright, and as we did before, we can dump one of our chutes. And, I'm sure a couple people might be wondering, I only mentioned it like once or twice in the last episode, why I'm not just using the parachute up on top. It's because I want to leave the top, I'm going to reuse this design, and I want to leave the top of the capsule open for when I'm ready to put like a docking port up there to do like rendezvous and stuff like that. Because I like to reuse my designs like long term. And this has been working pretty well. I mean, we've only flown it a couple of times, but I think it's been working relatively well. And we'll see what we got for science. Not bad. Okay. Yeah, and new techs are going to be 160 out of level 2 there, where we can grab those. But I'm thinking I'm going to grab one or two of these others. I'm not really sure yet. This is appealing for a number of reasons. Advanced landing is also appealing. I mean, really all of these are appealing, but I'm thinking that RA2 relay antenna is very compelling. But anyway, the next thing I wanted to do, before I forget, we are going to make ourselves... No, you know what? We are going to make ourselves a little design that we can reuse in the future. We're going to make a little rover to drive around the Kerbal Space Center that we can reuse later on and collect science. Oh, tell me it's not going to let me? Alright, I gotta find, like, a structural node part or some nonsense. There, close enough. Oh, it's upside down. Minor... No, it's not upside down. What? Why is it... Alright, yeah, there we go. That was strange. Anyway. So the idea there, literally is just going to be... to have our crew member get in and do crew member stuff. And we want that to tell us what biome we're in. We want this to collect the science. Actually, yeah, you know what? Let's just do this. Excellent. All right, and now, of course, just to be extra sure, even though we've been doing, like, auto struts and whatnot, not going to take a whole lot of chances. So we'll do some of that. Now, we're going to need, unfortunately, to do jet engines on our little thing here. And we'll grab some jet fuel. And that should work. If memory serves, it should be able to pull the fuel from wherever. It shouldn't have to be directly attached off the engine. Okay. Now is kind of the tricky part. No, you know what? Just to make sure we're making it nice and even. There we go. Okay, and the reason I'm going with the landing gear that retracts is so that this whole apparatus can retract down to the ground for the crew member to get out and take a surface sample without needing a ladder or any kind of silliness like that. Now, let's make sure. And you know what? Bill hasn't done anything yet, so we'll let him do the honors. Let's make sure that this works correctly as intended before we start driving it around. Excellent. 9 science every time we do that. Oh, and the EVA report. How did I not have that yet? F5 for safety, because it is always risky driving around without having the runway upgraded. Yep, and that is working quite well. Awesome. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's why we F5 for safety. You know, because sometimes, like, doing the physics warp is quite dangerous. I mean, we were barely moving. You saw that. Less than, you know, like 15 meters per second. And the whole thing just flipped over and exploded out of nowhere for no obvious reason. Oh, the other reason to use these landing gear that retract up into the bay, they steer very well. Alright, yeah, not going to need any of that. And we already have quite a few of these, I think, but we're gonna go check it out. I believe the flagpole, I think, is now its own biome. Now that I've upgraded some of the other stuff, we will find out shortly. But Getting those EVA surface samples. Got to scoop up the dirt around the Kerbal Space Center. Yeah, and I think the flagpole counts as its own biome, now that we actually have the separate flagpole up. We will find out in just a minute. Alright, diminishing returns. And you know what? We're gonna do a quick safety save, just for good measure. And you know, we're not, as I mentioned, I think in like the first episode, I'm not going to be doing a lot of save stating for any kind of cheating purposes. It's more for Kraken insurance. Which, unfortunately, you know, it's still Kerbal Space Program. Sometimes the physics will randomly decide, oh hey, you know, it's time for your engine to explode. Still thinks we're in the astronaut complex. Alright, that's fine. We'll go over to the last building here, the strategy center that I haven't touched. I don't really use the strategies very often, not until very late in the game when I've maxed out the tech tree. Then this building becomes rather significant, because you can tweak your mission rewards and convert most of the science that you would be getting into funding. And when you get to the point where you no longer need any science, you know, that becomes a thing that is good to do. Since it'll give us a little bit more freedom. And gear goes up again. Yeah, this rover is significantly safer than the last time we did this. You know, actually being able to steer the wheels more than like an eighth of a degree at a time. Oh, you know what? I needed to get the surface sample from R&D, but I forgot because I'm dumb. And again, you know, some of these things that we're doing are slightly tedious. You know, collecting all this science, just driving around the Kerbal Space Center. However, as tedious as it is, it does give us a fairly significant boost. Yeah, I'll grab the diminishing returns. It does give us a fairly significant boost to our career advancement here. And yeah, we need to go back and collect our surface sample from the astronaut complex. Then we'll go get it from the crawler way. And then we'll drive out onto the grasslands. Or I think it'll count as doing it from the shores. Here we go. And we're almost done. And you know, where this rover ends up being as successful and stable to drive as it has been here, much later in the game when I get a few other science instruments, I'll be able to reuse this and basically repeat the process. Alright, we should be in the crawler way now. Yep. And we'll get some diminishing returns. Extra 3 science, just because we can. And we've already got our surface sample from the launch pad. That was our test. Alright, this will be our last set of diminishing returns. Okay. And we'll see how much we got from that. It should be a fair amount. Oh, excellent. Look at that. All right, so that's more than enough to get us a couple of different technologies here. I think, though, yeah, it's a difficult choice. I love how we get, like, the equipment for, like, landing and stuff like that long before we're really capable of, like, landing anywhere. Or at least landing anywhere safely. I mean, I realize with the technology we have, we're more than capable of actually doing some landing missions, but I like to kind of do it the right way. Yeah, I think I'm going to go here and here. All right. But just for good measure, let's see if we have any extra little missions. Yeah, nothing. But that's fine. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to send a satellite to orbit the moon. So I'm actually going to do a new design for this one. Whoops. Not quite what we wanted. Moona 2. There we go. That looks good. Excellent. All right, now we will strap our Kerbal Engineer kit, a couple of science experiments, just to have them, so that we can do science data from the moon, like, whenever we want. And did we get... We did. But we don't really need them for right now, because this is going to be a very tiny, very light sort of a probe. Nice. And because this is so light and tiny, I am thinking that we can probably get away with our entry-level booster. I'm thinking that OTAR 1 can probably do the trick to get this to the moon, if we're careful with our launch. And it'll also be very cheap. So, let's give that a shot. And, you know, the worst case scenario is that we end up with another flyby mission. Or that we end up, like, parking this as a relay and renaming it to, like, Kerbal 7 or something. So we'll target the moon. Oh, look at that. Moon 1 hasn't even impacted yet. Okay, this is about what we want. Good 90-degree angle. Perfect. F5 for safety, and up we go. And you know, sometimes a small, basic light booster like this really will get you what you need. You know, I know that the Kerbal engineering way to do things is just to ridiculously overbuild everything. And there will be quite a bit of that later in the game, I'm sure. But in these early missions where you have to keep things super cheap, I tend to underbuild a bit. And these early boosters are an example of that. You know, later on, when we're doing like manned landings and stuff like that, you know, and we're trying to like plant the flag on Moho and stuff, you'll definitely see some Kerbaled out monstrosity launchers. I have no doubt about that. Alright, we're getting there. Trajectory looks to be going pretty good. Not dipping too far down. And again, our payload is very light, which helps. Okay. Oh, and I'm in space, so I can do some of that. Excellent. And... oh, that's not bad. That actually works out well. So now, the main hope is that our relay network is going to continue to serve us over here. And eventually, once we get like some of the higher end relay dishes, we'll set up like some geostationary satellites directly above the Kerbal Space Center and stuff like that. But for right now, we're just kind of winging it with a high quantity of satellites in like random orbits. Sort of build a very simplistic relay network. Oh, excellent. Excellent. Look at that. Tons of fuel and Delta V to spare. Love to see it. Alright, so we'll orient vertically so that we can get science when we need it. And we'll transmit just to complete the science around the moon contract there. Awesome. Big chunk of money. That's what we like to see. Okay. Oh, and now we also... alright, so the next one is just going to be to literally crash into the moon. You know what we might even be able to do? We might even be able to combine a lander with an impactor. That'll be interesting. To have part of the craft just go down and crash and explode, and the other part do a controlled landing. That'll be, I think, a good challenge. And yeah, one more and we'll finish out there. Alright, so we're going to start... Did I? I did not. Okay. It's fine, though. So what we'll do... that will be our impactor. And that should be enough Delta V to get us down from an orbit. Well, no, you know what? I'll do an impactor and a lander as separate launches. Because the way I want to do the lander isn't going to work well with this sort of an arrangement with an impactor up on top of it. But can still do the impactor without any real trouble. We don't even need to keep control of it over the long term or anything like that. At least we shouldn't. But just in case, we'll put a couple of solar panels on it and... there. All right. And you know what? For this one, let's actually do something a little different. We can go extremely cheap. Yeah. We can go extremely cheap. That should be enough delta V to crash into the moon. And we're almost... Oh, look at that. We're basically right at the correct... Okay. We're basically right at the correct orientation. Not bad. And again, our ascent and everything doesn't have to be perfect. This is a one-way trip. I mean, we might not have even have needed that engine on the upper stage or anything. Because this train stage right there with the Terrier engine, that might be more than enough to get us up there. However, we may have issues with electricity in a minute. We're going to have to reorient and aim those solar panels. Okay, good. Charging up. That's what we like to see. Alright, so now let's just thinking here. Alright, so now we're going to check. Alright, so we want to burn the other way. And we want to bring our moon periapsis down to literally like 0. And we've easily got the delta V to do that. Okay. Alright, this is most definitely a one-way trip. And just to make sure we don't run out of electricity, we will aim towards the sun. And we will also turn off our stability assist. Yeah, I was worried about that. We fell into the shadow of Kerbin for a second there. Okay, yep, we are going smack down onto the surface. So we'll watch the impact just to watch it. Yep, that is a Kerthud. And we completed our contract to crash into the moon. It was very anticlimactic. Probably because we time warped in a way that didn't. It might not have completely loaded the physics. But that will have given us some good rewards. Enough to get our space exploration, which we don't strictly need at the moment, but I'm going to grab it anyway, just to get it out of the way. Okay, so now we have all these extra moon exploration contracts. Rendezvous and docking. Yeah, not yet. And I'm not going to worry about the moon contracts yet. Because we still need to do a soft landing. Muna 4. We'll do a couple of these just for good measure and good happy weight symmetry. Or something close to symmetry at least. And what we're doing here... Oh, wrong one. We are setting ourselves up... Whoops. We are setting ourselves up for RCS control, which we can use for, like, the final part of the descent, or if we have to adjust to come down on a flat surface. And we've also got, you know, our landing legs, and this will be our main descent engine. So we need a trans stage. And fortunately, this stuff also makes for a handy trans stage. And these carry an enormous amount of fuel. Well, no, I'm not going to bother with those. I'll keep it light and keep it simple. That'll be our trans stage. So the purpose of this will be to provide some braking on descent on our way down. And we'll use our trusty OTAR-2 for this mission, but we're going to need a payload fairing. Alright, checking our staging. Okay, staging looks good. So, and just for extra good measure, okay. And we do have to egg that out a little bit to fit around the landing legs. But that's fine. This is still... This should be more than capable of landing us on the moon. Alright, we are facing exactly the wrong way. A little bit further than I should have gone, but it's fine. We have more than enough Delta V. We'll wing it. Absolutely ridiculous amounts of Delta V with this vehicle. At least with the weights that we're launching with it. Yeah, this OTAR-2, we're going to be getting some good use out of this, I think, long term. It's proving to be very capable. And you know, I'm kind of thinking those solid rocket boosters, I might put like a drogue chute or something on them. Or once I get the Separatron, the little solid boosters, to like force a Korolev cross. Because I've been worried every time I've launched about one of the boosters falling back and smacking my nozzle. Because that is not a fun thing. Hate it when it does that. Okay. And we'll do our time warp a little bit. Look at that. First stage is getting us a good chunk of the way there. Love to see it. And what I'm probably going to be doing here, unless things line up just right, I'm going to be going into orbit around the moon. And the reason for that is so that I can control not only where I land, but I want to try and land underneath Mona 2, the relay satellite. That's going to be very important. Yeah, because like right now, we're out of radio contact. So I'm going to want to make sure that I'm landing with radio contact. You know, minor detail, right? Alright, so we'll turn that around. Yeah, and the other thing I'm going to do, I'm probably going to wait till the end of the month here. So that we're landing with the light side facing towards Kerbin. bring us down into a very low orbit. Yeah, very low. And, okay, good. We've got some good solar. Oh, geez, I could have even landed here. Alright, well, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. We'll probably land in the crater. That actually ended up lining up a lot better than I expected. We'll just, we're going to be kind of relying on that signal staying nice and strong. Alright, down we go. Of course, the question becomes, can we decelerate with enough thrust? Yeah, I think we got it. We're fine. More than fine. Look at that, we even got a relatively good landing site, I think. Yeah, this is a good smooth landing area. Not bad. Not bad. And again, all we're doing there is just trying to make sure that we're coming down in this relatively smooth area. I didn't want to be too close to those slopes. Alright, we're going to blast the rest of our descent energy. Okay. We should be able to do the rest of this. Perfect. And again, where this craft is so light, I mean, I could almost land on just these wimpy RCS thrusters. If you look at my throttle is at nothing, and I'm controlling my speed very effectively with it. This is going to be... Yeah, this is going to be a very gentle landing. Excellent. That was great. All right, let's transmit some science. That should get us some progression milestones and complete a contract or two. Oh, yeah. Oh, funding. Love it. Oh, funding. Perfect. All right, we have landed on the moon with a nice little probe. I'm liking it. Okay. So this wants us to return a sample. That's going to be a little bit more of an involved mission, but I am going to take it. Because the rewards are really good. So we're definitely going to do that. For right now, however, I think I'm just going to do a flyby, a crude flyby. Because I want to get some more science. And if I do an Akatosh flight, I should have enough Delta V, to do a nice crude flyby of the moon. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a probe core up on top of here so that I can use a crew member who is not a pilot. I'm going to send Bob up. He will be the first one to fly by the moon in Akatosh 3. No, actually, you know what? All right, since we're going to the moon, we're going to start our moon mission series. We'll call these Magnus. Magnus 1. Okay, so we're going to be able to collect all this science from space around the moon. And anything else we need? I don't think so. But just for good measure, we'll go with a couple extra solar panels and a couple extra batteries. Just for good measure. Okay. And again, since our crew member here isn't a pilot, he's a scientist, he wouldn't normally be able to provide the stability-assisted piloting for the vehicle. And that's kind of important. We definitely want that. Get our orientation lined up. Perfect. And up we go. Oh. Well, I wanted to F5 for safety. I guess I'm going to have to wait till I'm a little higher. There we go. Yeah, I get a little skittish in these early missions that don't have a launch abort system. Okay. This has ended up as a very good ascent angle there. Bob is floating around, happy as can be. Because he is... And again, it's doing that, because Bob is going to the moon and he knows it. And we'll transmit just because we can. Apoapsis at around 100,000. We are now completely horizontal. on our gravity turn. Still in our first stage. Yeah, I think this should have no trouble getting us to the moon. I mean, we might even have enough to go into like a lunar orbit, but I'm not going to push it. I just want to get our science data from space high and space low. So I don't know. I may have to do an orbit. We'll see. All right, where's our approach? All right, well, that's going to be way too high. So if we... We're just doing some fine-tuning. Alright, that's getting a little crazy. Let's see about doing some of this. Yeah, the problem is it's going to be hard to come back and recover from this weird orbit. But if we're careful, we should have enough. Yes, it's going to be a bit of a weird mission, but it's fine. Bob's good. He knows what's going on. Okay, we are officially on a flyby trajectory. Yeah, and we're going to be getting a significant amount of science by bringing all this home with us instead of transmitting it. And we'll do an EVA for the Quick 16. All right, and you know, I'm curious. I want to see what'll happen with our... Oh yeah, that's going to send us way out there, so we don't want to do that. Let's try this. All right, now that'll get really complicated and stupid. So I'm going to wait until after we've done our flyby of the moon before I worry about recovering. But we're going to warp down until we're in space low. Okay, we are in space low. Look at that, 30 science, love it. 75, love it. You know, the more I think about it, the launch vehicle we have, if I were more careful, it might even have enough delta V for a direct descent landing. But we'll see. All right, first let me make sure we collect all of that. All right, so now what I'm going to do is we're going to cruise way out here where it's going to be most efficient to do a retrograde burn. We're going to burn to bring our periapsis down, then we're going to go down to our periapsis, burn again to bring our apoapsis down, then do the final re-entry burn. Perfect. And so when we get down here, I'm just going to do a retrograde burn. That'll bring our apps down. And the idea is that our re-entry speed should be managed a bit easier. You know, I mean, we've got plenty of heat shield. I'm not worried at all. But, you know, it's always better to play it a little safe. Okay, so from here, and so now we're going to warp over onto the night side and do our final retrograde burn. Oh, look at that. We even have comms bouncing off of Mona 2. All right, and our target periapsis is 30,000. Easily done. Nice and clean. All right, we've got everything we need, and yup. And just because we can, got to do that quick. Otherwise, gets a little crispy. Almost down. Oh, look at that. We're coming down right over Kerbal Space Center. I thought the terrain here looked a little familiar. KSC's right over on the other side of those mountains. So our recovery crew can just drive on over. F5 for safety. Excellent. That's what we like to see. Nice and safe. So this should get us a good chunk of science. I'm cautiously optimistic about what we're going to see from that. And depending on how much we get, we might be able to start thinking about a crewed landing on the moon. But we'll see. We may do some Minmus stuff before we land on the moon. Ooh. Not bad. That'll be enough to get us a couple of technologies. There's a lot of good stuff. Yeah, some of these tanks are kind of important. Some of this stuff is also kind of important. Then again, kind of important there. Those will have a good ripple effect. The light pods, very important stuff here. Yeah, so we're on the cusp of being able to unlock a fair amount of really good, important technologies. But I am thinking for right now, just sort of thinking where I'm going to be going. I'm leaning in the direction here of just to get these extra fuel tanks. This is compelling to be able to pick up a bunch of the extra science from around Kerbin. However, I'm going to hold off. At least for now. The lander can's important to get. But I think, yeah, for now, it's going to have to be precision propulsion. So let me take a quick look. I just want to check for a couple of specific parts. Alright, so we've got the Clampetron Jr. That is important. So we are at the stage now where we can start doing that. And that can even be the Akatosh D. D, of course, for docking. And we can use that as the base for some other things later. And I'm kind of thinking about the profile I want to use for the first landing. I have it on the brain to do a Kerbin orbit rendezvous and use one OTAR 2 to launch the lander and a trans stage, and a second one to launch the Akatosh D, dock them in orbit, send it on its way, and do the normal landing that way. But that is going to take quite a bit of time. So I am thinking that is going to about do it for this episode, because we have been going for a little while. So make sure you stay tuned for the next episode of our Kerbal Space Program career mode here. Oh, perfect. Perfect on that. All right. Oh, good. And that will be, yeah, the Armstrong Memorial is always where I do my first landing. So that'll be good there. Okay. So make sure you stay tuned in next time to do our first actual landing and flag planting on the moon. As always, thanks for watching.